Charles, there is apparently a money brawl of unprecedented scope unfolding right before our eyes. How are you doing this morning in Thailand?
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking, Jason. I hope you're well. Yesterday, I was able to get back on the tennis program, and I spent an hour hitting with a 29-year-old man, a good player. 40 minutes of it practicing returning hard serves. And I quit after an hour, and I feel pretty good this morning. Go
I think
back tomorrow.
people find it odd that you're in Thailand. You're not even wearing a tie. It's all right.
I haven't worn a tie in a long time.
I
In
know.
fact,
But you're in the land of ties. So, but Charles, everybody wants to know from the financial perspective. There was this press conference where Scott Bessent, somebody asked him, like, hey, financial D-Day, they didn't announce D-Day, they just did it. Why aren't you doing this? And he said, well, I don't want to just blow up the whole global economy. And it's like, what?
well, so the challenge with Iran is that Iran is a big enough population and has enough potential on paper to be an attractive place for one shady European company or another to, or more than one, to work on evading sanctions. And that's indeed something that companies like Siemens, maybe even General Electric, but certainly Siemens and others have been hiring consultants in Switzerland, typically, or Dubai, to engage in complex schemes to functionally allow Iranian crude to be sold on the black market, other products that on the spirit out of Iran in defiance of sanctions. And I think what is happening behind the scenes is we finally had enough of this European bullshit. That Trump and Bessent have basically gone around to the Europeans who are assisting the Iranians, and now to the Chinese and others. So we've had it with this crap. We are not going to. I mean, 47 years of bullshit out of Tehran, death to America, death to Israel, terrorism plots all over the place. We're not. Other presidents have tolerated it. He tolerated it in his first term. No muss.
But
We're
is
not
this a
tolerating
threat
it.
they can even make good on, Charles? He said they're going to
Yeah.
sanction anybody. So China, they're not going to let China
Well,
deal in U.S. dollars if they do business with
again,
Iran?
the issue, and I said this to you offline, and I'm not giving financial advice here, but the players who are engaging in this sanctions evasion business typically are doing so with leverage, with debt, and uh, we may have $40 trillion in debt. We certainly have 40 trillion or more, but the United States economy has vast potential. The total value of all the goods and all the assets that we have net of the debt is many times 40 trillion. And we're not, people talk about whales and fans, very big players. Federal Reserve is not a whale. It's a planet, and
It's the ocean.
it's the whole planet. And so when we decide to go heavy against, let's say, a leveraged German bank, a large one that is financing these sanctions evaders, uh, the German government takes notice. And well, I think it's fair for us at this point. We have drawn a line in the sand. We said that this regime is untrustworthy. They tried to negotiate it with it in the beginning. That failed. I think Trump now certainly understands that you can't negotiate with these. The only thing you can negotiate with them is their terms of surrender. And we've reached that place. We believe that to be the case. If other European supposed allies are not going to get on board with this, I think our next step is to say to Europe, we really don't see the need, 81 years after the end of World War II, to have a mutual defense pact where we do the heavy lifting, we do the technology advancing, we have the people who might be killed in this mess on the line, and you just sit there and go to conferences and bang your mistresses and your boyfriends, putting it all on the taxpayer dime, and glorying in the fact of you're being a global good citizen. We're done with this shit. If you will not back, you didn't back us in the initiation of this. We reached the conclusion that if we really needed your help, you would not back us again. So our next card to play is that we're backing out of NATO, or we're changing it.
But it seems like Ratcliffe went to Russia. Politico is reporting the CIA chief used the Moscow visit to warn Russia against attacks on NATO allies and helping Iran. It's pretty weird, this whole sudden mission to Russia, right?
Again, I don't trust any mainstream reporting on this. Right? I mean, this is, if you go back to the end of World War II to 1945, in 1945, the United States and the Soviet Union were not at war. We were allies. Something happened between then in 1947, 48. And we see in this push from 1991-2 onwards, when H.W. Bush gave his assurances to Gorbachev that we wouldn't move eastward. And then Clinton did just that aggressively, followed by W. Bush and then Obama. There's a large apparatus at work that thrives on perpetual war. And that is not, we have $40 trillion in debt in part because of that apparatus. We pushed us into the first Iraq war, pushed us into Afghanistan,
Left all that stuff there for China to take.
Right. And I believe that's the anniversary of that inglorious exit is my today or your today or your tomorrow. But so I think back on the question of what Bessent is going to do now, I don't believe, when you see the New York Times and others endlessly sort of cheering on Trump's enemies, whether it's Canada, suggesting that we have a quagmire in Iran, under playing the early success and dismantling the Iranian Air Force, Navy, and the military industrial complex there. We have a bunch of people who, for whatever reason, are seriously afflicted by this Trump derangement syndrome, and they've suspended their ability to have any objectivity in their reporting. Why does it make sense why did it make sense for Obama to send pallets of cash to then and enter into an agreement that was explicitly not a treaty? They knew they could not get that JCPOA piece of crap through the Senate. So it was never a treaty. It wasn't really binding, I would argue, not being a lawyer, but that's what I would argue. And why did they embrace that? Why did they then give so much money and breathing room to a regime that only hardened its ability to attack the U.S. and our allies around the world? Why did everyone think that was such a great idea? Championed by John the Fool Kerry, right?
But I mean, cash, isn't that obviously for illicit payments that can't be traced? Like just hand out $400 million in cash?
Right.
Or billions. It was over $1 billion, wasn't
it? Yeah, it was billions. And the point here is that there is a team that has believed in the overwhelming virtues of globalism. And what that really means, globalism is unregulated mayhem, right? The construct of globalism. If you want to talk to me about a globalist structure where there is one Supreme Court, right, that's going to make a final decision on any contest, if there's a German court decision versus an American court decision, you put it up to the global Supreme Court, and that global Supreme Court will have the final say on the controversy. You want to talk about a system that's like that has, one global tax court, one global securities court, one global investigative service. That's not what we have here. We have a system where there's all these memorandums of understanding that don't mean shit by design. We have all of these endless conferences and discussion groups and chances for people to get together and sign communiques. This is not a globalist system. This is a shield for the monopolists who, and there are virtual monopolies today. I would argue, for example, Google is a virtual monopoly. Maybe Amazon is a virtual monopoly. So there are these people, and Microsoft arguably at one point was, attacked in the Clinton years as being a monopoly. So you set up this globalist system, and that allows monopolists to preserve their monopolistic position and profits. And then you pay off all these national politicians with crumbs. Musk is worth $1 trillion. What's giving, a politician 100 million to Elon Musk? Nothing.
Did you hear that Bill Gates has been warning that AI is more dangerous than big tech will admit? I don't know why he thinks anybody listens to anything he says. He's more dangerous than he'll admit.
Again, this whole idea that we should confuse economic success with wisdom is a very dangerous principle. I remember back in the roaring pre-internet .com bust, Gates had a book out, and I foolishly thought to myself, maybe I should try to read what this guy has to say. I mean, after all, he's a very successful guy. Maybe he's smart. I couldn't get through his book. I don't think he is particularly smart. And, any instinct that he has is an instinct that I question. Right? I mean, look at what this moron has done to the healthcare system. Right? I mean, he's, I think, the largest contributor to the WHO. Whether it was the AIDS mess, rushing drugs, in theory, out to help people with HIV, then only to discover after the fact that the drugs that were initially sent out in the beginning likely killed many more people than it helped. Moving from that to the COVID mess, anticipating a pandemic and then maybe profiting from it, hanging around with Epstein. I could imagine, like Donald Trump did an interview with that Sacha Baron Cohen when he was in character as, I think, Ali G or something like that. And he quickly figured out that it was bullshit, and he ended the interview.
Right.
That's what should have happened in the first meeting between Epstein, if there was going to be a meeting at all, between Epstein and Gates. I have a acquaintance who has a daughter who's in the documentary business, and she interviewed both Chelsea Clinton and Bill Gates, and each of them took the same approach with her. An advisor, each of them would, meet and say, well, Mrs. Clinton or Chelsea Clinton then, or Bill Gates are both very busy people. You're only going to have 15 minutes or 10 minutes. Keep your questions short. Don't interrupt the person when he's answering. And, please understand we're on a very tight schedule. Well, that's no way to interact, with somebody like a Bill Gates or whatever. I mean, he's very carefully managed or tried to manage his public exposure so that nobody gets to the bottom of who he really is. And I think he's a poser. Musk has said, I respect Musk's engineering abilities. Right? Without, me in engineering, I'm not even a beginner at it. But
you're starting your own space company, aren't you, Charles?
Yeah,
right there in the hotel room.
I'm focused on an alternative reality, like my father. But in the case of Gates, I believe Musk has, in an interview, said that he was very surprised when he met with Gates to see how weak his technical skills were. He recounted an incident, I think, wasn't it the semi-truck or something?
Yeah, he told, the story that he tells is that Bill Gates told him that an electric semi-truck would never work, and Elon Musk was interested in hearing what his thoughts were, but I do believe they had a prototype working. He told him, come over and see it, it's working.
Right, I know. And that's, I mean, when you get to, of course, AOC thinks that Musk is dumb. Right, right away. I'm sure she loves Gates, But
Charles, anything I've ever innovated, the 3D camera, anything, people always said, you're not going to be able to make that work. What do
right,
you know about this or that? So the concept that someone is innovating some piece of technology that other people are naysayers about is nothing new at all. The notion that Bill Gates would be one of those guys rather than someone who says, you know what,
right.
in my career, I've seen innovators. I don't know how you'll make it work, but I think if you apply yourself, you'll find a way.
Exactly. It's just showing his true character, that little incident, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, and Gates, I mean, sorry, Musk has done some crazy things in his personal life, but in his business career, to do one of the companies that he's done would be marvelous. How he's managed to do all these things at once,
He has a new spaceport in Louisiana.
huge one.
No, no, new one that they've just announced.
I know, I'm
Texas.
saying a new huge one.
Yeah, $100 billion launch facility. So you'll be able to, suck on those mud bugs also and launch things into space.
I would have thought you could buy most of Louisiana for 100 billion.
It's just the swamp.
Some
Oh,
gumbo.
wait a minute. Landry. Oh no, Landrew. So the governor of Louisiana is now Landry. I don't know that person. Mary Landrew is who I was thinking of.
There are various Landrews. There was Moon Landrew and multi-generational political dynasty down there.
Oh, Zelensky awarded Elon Musk Ukraine's Order of Freedom. I hadn't heard about that.
That's like the Saudi Arabian School of Beauty. Come on. The Ukrainian Medal of Freedom, a country that has suspended elections.
But by the way, somebody was saying that Elon Musk is a Russian agent or a Russian bot or something like that. So
come on.
Here's Ukraine giving him an award.
Right, but come on. This is a country. Zelensky has overstayed his term, has jailed his opponents, shut down one of the main religions, jailed his enemies. His cronies, finally, some of them are being rounded up for corruption. He can't account for $350 billion. And I wouldn't take a medal from him. Yeah, it's ridiculous. A medal of freedom from Ukraine? Are you kidding me?
I agree. What happened to that member of parliament that he's stuck in jail
He's still there. He's a good man. We interviewed him.
Yeah. What's his last name again?
Is it Dubinsky, is it? Or Oleg, something like that?
Alexander Dubinsky, right. That's it. Yeah, he's there. I don't know how he gets onto Twitter from jail, but people are following him. 32 months in prison. Unbelievable. Why don't they let this guy out? I was disappointed that Laura wouldn't ask him anything about this guy or anything. Yeah, here, man under whose rule tens of thousands of political prisoners have been jailed for social media posts, likes, and demands for negotiations has presented Elon Musk with a Freedom Award. What a mess. He's right.
Did Musk actually go there and get it?
I don't know. We just launch it into space and I'll get it there.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. And he's talking about Naboo. This is all crooked FBI stuff. And also, we've still got Andrei Telizhenko under lock and key, unable to conduct his life normally. Very bad.
Yeah, I mean, it's taken so long, and it's disappointing that it's taken this long. But if you went back to the early days, strange sounds here, the early days of COVID, when you and I were immediately skeptical, and people at the peak pro-COVID lockdown, we weren't exactly pariahs, but there were people who were just start yelling and screaming at you if you didn't get the jab. And now finally, I think people are finally opening their eyes and saying, "Now wait a minute, was this just a gigantic scam? And how many people have been harmed How many young women are having miscarriages, possibly because of this experimental treatment that was foisted on everybody? Why are cancer rates skyrocketing?
And
You
will they
know,
do anything to Fauci, or is that just a week's worth of social media fodder?
yeah, well, Fauci's lawyers need to get paid, of course, right? They get law
I
firm.
think he did start a website, a GoFund Fauci kind of legal defense fund.
Wasn't it with butter? What
Yes,
was it
right.
with
Give butter. He's got to butter somebody up. It's so
butter?
stupid. It's just so,
Right.
it's shameful. Now, in
Exactly. So,
other horrible news, Charles, there was a giant flood and it's pummeling China and Nepal.
in particular, the border between isn't it between Nepal and Tibet or something? There, yeah, I saw footage of it this morning, and actually in Penang, there are quite a few people in the Penang Sports Club are well, actually, the help many of them are from Nepal. But beyond that, there are a number of people who, in fact, my doctor friend was just in Nepal,
Good thing he didn't get
and
pummeled by a flood.
well, he was urging me to go, and I'm like, before this, and I said, no, no, thank you. I mean, I've done a lot of time, not in Mount Everest, but in mountains, and I'm kind of like interested in the beach right now.
Not interested in floods, I can tell you that.
Yeah, and being washed out with the bridge.
It
It
was like
looks
a
pretty
huge
ugly.
mudslide. Yeah, it was bad.
Let's hope the Clintons don't decide to raise money for it.
So how will we know when this money brawl is working or not? I don't see how they're going to enforce it against China or Russia. I mean, we don't know what Ratcliffe was doing in Russia. Even I heard some report that Putin was like surprised by it, canceled some public event.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, again, I don't know. It's obviously a not very secret, right? I mean, this mission that was
Well,
supposed to
no,
be top secret.
now it's not secret, but I think on his way there it was secret. We're going to have a bunch more to talk about in the First Amendment Forum in just a moment or two. People can join us there on crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com and subscribestar.com and patreon.com/crowdsource the truth. I don't know if you heard about this, Charles, but the Pentagon claims to have found hidden files on the final days of the Afghanistan war, and I can only imagine they describe in great detail how stupid Joe Biden is.
And his people. And actually, there was something else I read that some papers were found of, or messages back and forth of Jake Sullivan and others bragging about who was the biggest liar among the group.
What?
Yeah, I saw that several days ago. I don't know if it's true. Again, at this stage, you don't know if anything's true.
Did they go
It used to
back to
be,
that? What was that consulting thing they had? Something Street Consulting?
I don't. Oh, you mean Sullivan had it with Blinken?
Yeah,
Yeah. They all have those think tanks and
right.
consulting firms.
Nonprofit, millions going in there, pay themselves huge salaries for doing nothing, just like Vindman. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
What's that for? The quote better than I, lie and truth traveling.
A lie travels around the world before the truth gets its pants on, or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And that they know that.
It's a
And it's
stupid quote
really,
though, because the truth doesn't wear pants. It's the naked truth.
but well, the naked truth will put on pants to be civilized.
Maybe that's the problem. So, yeah, I mean, Breitbart is telling us that Trump has cleared the mines. I don't know. It feels like this is a more complex war than just clearing mines. I mean, the whole entire international global, like Bessent said, he doesn't want to blow up the global economy, but then why are you threatening to do it? You just sort of revealed that you don't want to do it. So it seems like something of an empty threat, but everything is so intertwined. I don't know. It's difficult to know what really
Well,
will happen.
there's a couple of clues though. The first clue is that, back in 73 and in the Kuwait War, in 91, back in those days, there was always talk of the Arab Street. The Arab Street's going to crush Israel and all this kind of stuff. With this one, you don't hear that talk.
What do you mean the
And
Arab street, the people in?
yeah, I mean, Israel has been pounding the living shit out of Lebanon, out of Syria now, out of Gaza, out of this and that. And, there's no spontaneous pan-Arab movement against Israel. You
It's more
have,
of a movement here in the United States, isn't it?
again, funded most likely by China
Hmm.
and that guy Singham
Well,
and
let's
maybe
do this,
Soros.
Charles.
But just if
Let's
I finish my thought, is
sure.
one important thought, which is that Dubai, which is really a wealth center in the Middle East. It's where a lot of the Gulf kingdoms and other rich people keep their money in Dubai. Dubai has basically turned solidly against Iran, against this government, solidly. And that's, for them, it's a small internal population of Emiratis, right? It's not, much of that country is run by immigrants. For them to go, to flip the switch now as they have and be as militantly against the IRGC, for Qatar to now, so some are saying they've lost $25 billion in this conflict so far. And that's begins to be serious money for Qatar. So far, the anti-IRGC coalition is holding together. I think that's because the neighbors of Iran appreciate that if the IRGC does get a nuclear weapon, they're only going to be more destructive, more threatening to the region. So I think, those Europeans and their castles, their think tanks, and their fancy, stupid outfits from, the World Economic Forum and that kind of stuff, they don't seem to get the message. The last time they've made major contributions to world civilization was in the 15 and 1600s with their thinking and artistry and stuff like that. Maybe you give them the impressions, but the last 100 years have been a disaster following Europe's lead on everything. World War I, World War II, mistake after mistake. Their countries are going exactly the wrong direction. Their populations are being smoked by idiots like this Klaus Einel Schwab and others.
The Star Trek haberdasher. But Charles,
Do I look
we'll
fat in
be
this pants? Do I
back
look
in just
stupid
a
in this
minute
pants?
to talk about this and more on the First Amendment Forum. Stay with us, everybody, and thanks to everyone